Don't leave me hanging. It's go time.
Hey everybody, this is Josh, and welcome to another amazing, wonderful, terrific, beautiful, awesome, completely unpredictable best of three series being played between alternate attacks Socke, or Zocke, as he once told me. It is actually pronounced, if you're German like he is, that is how you should pronounce it, but I'm probably just going to stick to Socke because I'm American and it's easier for me. Anyway, he is the light blue Protoss up here on the top of Lost Temple, and his opponent is the ever-present MorroW. This guy has shown up in more finals of tournaments than some players have even shown up in tournaments at all. He is everywhere, and if you don't know anything about MorroW, I am shocked at you. If you seriously have never heard of MorroW, I just don't know what to tell you. He's been around since the early beta, winning things ever since he started playing this game. He was a presence in Brood War as well, but his StarCraft 2 legacy continues to build. He won the Intel Extreme Masters Global Challenge, which was the first live event with players representing from Europe, North America, and Korea, if I remember correctly. But E.G. Idra lost to MorroW in the finals of that Intel Extreme Masters Global Challenge because MorroW was a Terran player back then, and he abused Reapers mercilessly. He would build like 6 racks with Tech Labs, just crank Reapers out of them all day long against poor Idra. Back in those days, Reapers did more damage, they were built faster, and Nitro Packs were still an available upgrade from the Tech Lab without requiring a factory. So MorroW, after winning the Global Challenge, decided, you know what? I'm sick of people saying that I abused my race, that Terran is too easy, so I'm going to switch to Zerg. Not long after the Global Challenge, he switched to Zerg, and he has still been showing up in pretty much every single major tournament, making his presence known. Socke, on the other hand, doesn't really have a massive live event tournament win to his name or anything like that, but he is always in the round of 8 or better. Like, you just cannot find a European tournament or an international tournament where Socke is not at least toppling a really great player or making it to the semifinals or something like that. I mean, he is all over the place. He's playing in Go4 SC2 Cups. He's won a few of them. The Craft Cups, both in the US and North America, he's won a handful of those as well. He makes his presence known in tournaments like Assembly and European Championships, and he is just all over the place. A wonderful Protoss to watch, and he's very entertaining, and he's very, very good. So this best of 3 series should be pretty darn amazing. Now that we are a few minutes into this game, we can kind of check out what has developed here. I'm very surprised actually to see that MorroW has built a spawning pool first, still does not have a hatchery up despite really wanting it. Socke has done a good job denying him that hatchery so far in this game, but now he is shooed away by these Zerglings. He wants to keep his probe alive, so he is just going to book it out of there with his probe back through the middle of the map. MorroW has not really gotten a great look at Socke's base. He knows exactly where he is because he did scout those other positions, but Socke also knows where MorroW is. Obviously, his probe is over there denying that hatchery the whole time, but this probe will survive all the way back into Socke's base. This Ling might actually get in here as well to try and check things out. No, this Zealot is already blocking here with hold position. The probe, of course, passes right through him because Socke did click on a mineral patch, and that's just a game mechanic. Workers go through other units if they're on the way to a mineral patch. That way, they don't bounce off of each other constantly in the mineral line. Could you imagine if probes could not occupy the same space? These mineral patches would look a lot different, I'll tell you that. But Gateway number 2 coming up for Socke. Gateway number 3 also coming up for Socke, and Warp Gate Tech, of course, is being chrono boosted. So Gateway number 4, I'm surprised we haven't seen it already, but I imagine that it could be on the way here shortly. Or he might go for the 3-gate expand and get a lovely robotics facility out next. He's got a sentry here at his ramp, so force field's going to be a possibility in case MorroW shows up with a ton of Lings, and Socke does not want that to happen. He can just drop a nice force field and be fine. Both players just massing workers right now. If we look at the income tab, both players up around 25 workers. Socke actually ahead right now, but MorroW has the second hatchery done, so he will be taking a quick lead there, still just building nothing but drones out of his larva. Check this out, Socke is getting hallucination quite quickly. He moves down his ramp a little bit now that Gateway number 3 is done, and he can turn it into a warp gate right away, as this one on the right also does. Socke does have about 400 minerals now, so he will just bring a probe right over here, drop that Nexus, and he is not going to be too far behind MorroW at all. Only about a minute and a half difference there, taking his own natural between when MorroW put his up and when Socke placed his natural expansion. So no additional tech just yet out of Socke, still just 3 gates. He's going quite sentry heavy, which is great against mass Lings. Unfortunately, MorroW hasn't really built a mass of anything. He's just now getting a Roach Warren and an Evolution Chamber up as well. If you look at the units tab with me, 2 Zerglings on the entire field, so really Socke has the entire army value right now in this entire game. MorroW has built nothing but drones so far, and Socke is going to send this hallucinated Phoenix very quickly. And one thing I want to comment on about hallucination, players still don't really use hallucination beyond these hallucinated Phoenixes, and that just really surprises me. Imagine you're in the mid-game, you're moving with a lot of Tier 1 units, maybe an Immortal or two, you have a bunch of sentries available for Force Field and Guardian Shield, that's great, but why not take one of those sentries aside? Obviously, all of them don't need to mass Force Field. All of them don't need to put up Guardian Shield. Why not take one of the sentries aside and hallucinate some Zealots? Hallucinate, you know, you can hallucinate whatever you want. Archons, Warp Prisms even. I've never seen a hallucinated Warp Prism. I don't even know why that's an option. But hallucinated Colossus, hallucinated Archon, hallucinated Immortal. They all cost the same amount of energy. You can make whatever composition you want and freak out your opponent. You can mass Void Rays. You could have 3 or 4 Void Rays in the air, and if MorroW sees 3 Void Rays above a very large, massive Tier 1 units, he might focus them down. They might die really quickly, but at least it's shots wasted on hallucinations and not your actual sentries. So I'm just really shocked that this far into the game's evolvement that hallucination is just not used as much as I would imagine, and really hallucinating a Scouting Phoenix every once in a while seems to be pretty much it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the value of Guardian Shield and the value of Force Fields are incredible. You obviously want to have a lot of energy. Some people may consider it a waste, but why not bolster your army, at least in the view of your opponent? There, MorroW did have an Overseer, but it just got taken out extremely quickly before he could even see what was going on. Robotics Bay about to finish up here for Socke. Just another pylon over here on the right side, so soon we'll be seeing mass Tier 1 units and Colossi out of Socke. MorroW, on the other hand, getting some upgrades rolling. He's got Roach Speed, he's got +1 missile attacks. Here comes another hallucinated Phoenix to check out everything. Nothing surprising, really. That lair is done, so he knows that. 10 more drones being built. If you look at the units tab right now, actually, let's look at the army tab once again. Socke, army value way ahead, but MorroW way ahead in actual supply count. He's at 54 harvesters now, 46 for Socke, so he's pulling ahead despite only putting up his gold base now. Socke has not broken down his destructible rocks yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if he started to do that with this big force right here. He's going to move toward the Zelnaga Tower, not really see any use for that. MorroW finally getting a peek at everything going on in Socke's base. This single sentry going to be too slow to actually kill this Overseer, and he drops a nice Contaminate on the extended thermal lances. So when a Robotics Bay is researching something and you see the Robotics Facility also building something, MorroW has to make a decision. Does he want slower extended thermal lances, or does he want a slower Colossus? At this point, MorroW doesn't really have the army to do a big attack, so the Colossus doesn't really matter. Extended thermal lances, not a bad choice there. And it does take longer, so it takes a really long time to get that done anyway. Gateways, number 4 and 5 coming up. Socke is breaking down the destructible rocks here, but for some reason he has 5 units on a hold position, not attacking anything. And there he finally wakes up, but that was kind of strange. Anyway, MorroW now transferring a ton of drones over to the gold base. We can see in the income that the minerals per minute is far exceeding Socke at this point. Gas should be about the same, as MorroW is just now throwing up extractors number 5 and 6, actually. I almost said 4 and 5, which wouldn't really make a lot of sense, but still got a lot of upgrades rolling for MorroW. He's at Zerg attacks, missile attacks level 2, groove spines coming up, so these Hydralisks that he's been building can get some extra range. 6 Hydralisks being built right now, and a Spire going up, so everyone trying to diversify their armies right now. Socke just going with Colossi. He does not have a Forge down, as far as I know, so that would probably be the next logical step now that he has a lot of Stalkers to handle any Corruptors that might come out. He's got these Colossi here, which rip through ground forces of Zerg players. Lots of force fields going down here, and Socke is going to manage to snag a couple of Roach kills, but MorroW very quickly backs off, as he should, as is expected when you don't want to confront a big army like that. Force fields now expire, and Socke is going to move his Colossi up the cliff, maybe? No? Looks like he's just going to move in with his traditional Colossi Death Ball. Lots more force fields going down now. Guardian Shield is up, reducing the damage taken from every single unit that MorroW has here. Roaches and Hydralisks going to do a lot less damage with that Guardian Shield up, and MorroW is forced to retreat once again. And now we have a little bit of a flank coming up, but more force field saving the day for Socke. These sentries are starting to run dry on energy. That is going to be the last force field we'll see for a little bit. Colossus number 1 is taken out, but there's still another one here trying to rack up some kills, and Socke still has more units available than MorroW does, so he's going to back off. keep the remainder of his army intact and head back home. MorroW is taking base number 4 while Socke gets his gold expansion up and running. Income tab, we see 61 to 54 harvesters. MorroW could continue to drone up here, but now that his army has taken a bit of a hit, he's going to have to actually get some fighting units out. Corruptors coming out now to deal with these Colossi. 4 Lings being sprouted out of those eggs. Forge finally starting to be built now for Socke, and a second robotics facility. Ooh, I like the Observer in the air, taking out the creep tumors. That's one thing MorroW has adapted to quite well from switching to Terran to Zerg. Actually, he's been playing it for several months now, so really I can kind of stop bringing up the fact that he used to play Terran and, you know, he's a new Zerg player. He's been playing this race a lot longer than a lot of other Zerg players at this point. So MorroW, well known for spreading his creep quite well. He's been on top of that basically since he switched races, so I like to see that. Socke doesn't need to worry about spreading creep, only needs to worry about killing it, so he's got observers placed sort of around the map right now so he can find out where these creep tumors are. He can watch MorroW's army. This one's checking out this 4th base over here from MorroW. He's going to know exactly how many bases he has, everything like that. Lovely unit, the Observer. 67 harvesters now for MorroW, 63 for Socke. Both players still just massing up. Let's take a quick glance at the army tab just to see what's going on. MorroW far out supplying Socke right now by 35-ish, more than that now, and Socke using a round of Warpins to get in some more Stalkers. But if you look at the actual value, Socke is way ahead on gas value, but really it's going to be all about these encounters. The Corruptors in the air right now are perfect counters against these Colossi, but Socke, of course, doing a great job building pretty much essentially nothing but anti-air. He's got a couple of Zealots here for really no reason. If he plans on dropping a lot of force fields, Zealots lose their efficiency quite quickly. No additional tech out of Socke in a long time. He's getting +1 weapon upgrades, which of course is a great idea, but MorroW has a lot of Corruptors right here. 8 Corruptors going to be able to focus down a Colossus very quickly, but Socke does have a ton of Stalkers on the ground. They are one-shotting these Corruptors right now, so if MorroW continues to chase these Colossi, I don't think he's going to be able to snag a kill before all his Corruptors are dead. Good force fields going down right there at this little choke, and Socke is going to keep everything intact while MorroW loses a handful of Corruptors. So good engagement there for Socke, not losing anything. This Colossus is rather down on health points right now, but he's got a kill already, so you know, it's not that bad. And a couple of pylons coming up here for Socke. He doesn't want just one. He wants to be able to warp in no matter what. Lots and lots of force fields coming down once again. Corruptors unable to take out those Colossi, although they do corrupt everything. These force fields are going to keep all these roaches. How many roaches does he have? Units tab, tell me how many roaches he has. 82. No, that's drones. He's got 37 roaches on the ground right now, and they are trying to hit from both sides. Great concave for MorroW. Corruption going down on all these Colossi. Looks like they are going to start going down now, as these Corruptors cannot be killed off fast enough with their 2 armor that they got built in. All these Stalkers cannot kill them quickly enough, and all the Corruptors, or rather the Colossi, do go down to those Corruptors. MorroW, however, has a huge amount of forces left on the ground right now. Those Colossi going down means that these Corruptors are useless. They can corrupt Stalkers and Immortals, but really there's no point as long as he doesn't have any roaches on the ground. Now a couple of roaches and broodlings there, but still Socke looking in a very good position. He's got these 2 pylons back here that MorroW is trying to interrupt right now. Units streaming in from all sides for MorroW, trying to kill off the last of these Stalkers. Good Guardian Shield right there. Never want to forget about that. Mitigating a lot of damage out of MorroW. He did have his Evolution Chamber up quite early in this game. He's sitting at 2-1 upgrades, so Socke just blasting through these roaches right now with his 1-0 Immortal and Stalker forces. They all do bonus damage to roaches, and now he's going to build nothing but Stalkers here. He's got 2 more Colossi coming in from those robotics facilities at his main base. Going to continue pummeling these roaches one at a time as long as MorroW continues to send them like that. And MorroW sitting here with a couple of Corruptors, not enough to get close to these Colossi before all these Stalkers take them down extremely quickly. 2 more Colossi about to pop out now for Socke. 4 Hydralisk, 3 roaches. We got drones with Vespene gas in their hands. I almost thought those were Banelings for a second. They're actually just drones being pulled to try and defend this 4th base. Socke going to lose his Colossi once again, but now these Corruptors are essentially useless. That is a lot of food and resources tied up in those Corruptors that aren't going to be able to do any help at all aside from corruption, which is kind of a silly spell when you don't have the units to actually repel this giant force. So Socke is going to take game 1, and once again, this is a best of 3 series, so we could have potentially 2 more games right now between these 2 excellent European players. They've played each other so much on the ladder and in tournaments. I'm sure these guys have a good feel for each other already, and now feeling out their opponent right now in this first game is going to allow them to make decisions in the second game. Let's go see what happens. I'm not sure in this best of 3 if the loser gets to pick the map or not, but we'll see what map they end up on anyway if you just click this annotation right now.